Hello, everyone. It's really great to be here. I'm so proud that I can talk here. And the talks before me were incredible. My name is Ives van Hoorne. Pretty hard name, but so you can also call me Ives, Ives, Eve. Doesn't really matter. My name is also hard in the Netherlands, so I'm used to all different pronunciations. My friends even call me Flip, so if you want to call me Flip, that's also possible. I'm a second-year student at the University of Twente, and I'm also a part-time software developer at an auction website called CodeSandbox. You can find me on all social media under the name @ComputeIves. Okay, before I'm going to talk what I want to talk about, I have a story to tell. It's about a vacation trip 1 year ago to a beautiful village called St. Ives. And yes, we did go there because my name was in it. But that's not the point. So we were on this vacation trip, and I was then working full-time, and we were working on converting the pages of Rails to React. And I got a lot of questions from my coworkers about React or about React in our application specifically, but I didn't have my local development environment with me. So what I had to do is, I had to read their code snippets from Slack, interpret them in my Ives interpreter, and then I had to give them answers back, it was cumbersome, and I made mistakes, and I learned from it. But that was when I kept thinking about, what if I had my local development environment everywhere? And that was this beautiful quote: what if I put my local development environment on the web? So I had this idea, and I did not do anything with it. I just kept thinking about it, but I kept thinking about it until I started getting Java lectures at my university. At that point, I was so bored that I had to do something, and I started experimenting. So this is the first actual design. It's React Sandbox. You have this beautiful code editor on the left, and you have this preview on the right, but it's just a design. You can see you have this button on the left, and the idea was that you could have multiple components and that you could just click on a component, edit it, and import it anywhere else. So it was very simple. There was no file system or something. So then I started experimenting with it, and I got this code editor on the left, preview on the right, and I was so proud that I apparently took a screenshot of it. So at that point I thought, okay, I'm done. I've accomplished my goal. But then we started getting more Java lectures. So I started with working more on it by adding features. And we've got this beautiful application. You have the code editor on the left. You have this preview on the right. And here you can see even a browser bar that didn't have any functionality, but it looked nice. And you also have tabs. And the cool thing here is, if it's big enough, you could import other components already. This default tab is actually a component. It's not a tab, it's a file. And you could even import styled components, which I stopped. And then we had this second cool idea with creating custom views for if a React component wasn't exported, you could have this development view of seeing all the functions and maybe using these functions inside, but I never came to that. But I got enthusiastic, and I started building more and more and more features. Later on, I decided with my friend Bas Buursma, somewhere there in the back, to make a company out of it, and we became a team. And that was when CodeSandbox was born. I deployed it for the first time on the 20th of December, which is also my birthday, so double celebration. And I tweeted about it, and I only had 60 followers. And all my followers were my high school friends. So I got like 20 impressions, and then nothing happened. So in April, we decided to put it on Reddit, and then from that moment, it got a lot of traction. It started kind of sort of exploding, at least in my mind. I was expecting 1,000 visitors, but nowadays, at this moment, we have, I think, 50,000 projects already created, and we get 150,000 users different users a month. So it's much bigger than expected, but I'm proud to work on this because now so many people use it. Okay, for everyone who's not heard of CodeSandbox before, I'm going to show it. I'm going to give a lot of demos, and I'm living in the dangerous side of things. Okay, this is CodeSandbox, and it's quite normal, I'd say. It's like your local editor. You have this code editor on the left, you have this preview on the right, and in the work bar, you have your files, you can see them even, you can add dependencies, npm dependencies, and you can also give it a title. So let's make an example sandbox. Hello site day Berlin. Yes, I can still type under these nerves. And okay, let's use German. Sehr schön. I know this has to be a different O. I cannot type that O. And you can see it updates on the right side while you type. And this also happens for other components. So I make this hello, so we are even more Germaner. And you can press save, and it saves. It's all going as expected. Okay, so that's CodeSandbox. Now, I'm going to give a small explanation of how it works, because it's actually very simple. You have this iframe, that's this white part, and the other part is the editor. As you can see, the iframe is in a separate subdomain, and this is because we don't want to share cookies with sandboxes. If you have a hacker that reads all your cookies and sends them to him or her or anyone, then you can share your personal information by just opening a sandbox. So when your code changes in the editor, it will be sent to the iframe with a post message. The code will go through transpilers and then will be evaluated with a simple eval. And preview will send back, okay, I'm done. And it will say, okay, I have so many errors, most of the time 0. So this is actually the core of how it works, and I just built features on top of it to make it more appealing. You also have a separate thing now called the packager, and the packager is responsible for bundling all your npm dependencies. So if you have npm dependencies, we will request these npm dependencies from the packagers. From the packager, it will generate a build for you, and it will send them back. Now, I want to say that before I started working on CodeSandbox, I didn't know anything about post message or communication between iframes or how transpilers exactly work, or even that npm installs were possible in a web browser. My point is that if you're sitting here with an idea and you're not doing that idea because you think you don't know enough, that should not be the reason to not do it. You should just start building it. And no one ever started a project with knowing everything. So it's a great learning project. Now I'm going to explain the goals of CodeSandbox. We have 3 big goals, and the third one was the initial goal, but the other 2 are only logical to add because it's in the web browser. Lower the learning curve, encourage sharing and discovery, and I've told this. Okay, lower the learning curve. I've drawn a beautiful mountain. It's incredible. And you have this user, and see this as the user learning all these fancy frameworks. Now, what the user first has to learn is local tooling. Think of the terminal. Think of that you need a code editor. Then build tools, npm, Node, Webpack, Babel. And then the user has to configure these different build tools and then set up a project setup. And then you can start working on React or Vue, or doesn't really matter. Now, this was a very big problem 2 years ago, but this great invention came along called the CLI tooling, like Create React App, like Next, and they've already solved so many problems. This is really great. When someone says, I'm using Create React App for my project, that sentence already contains so much information. I know their build tools, I know their project setup, I know how everything is configured. So this is really great, but I wanted to take it a step further and Also replace the local tooling with CodeSandbox. And look at this small mountain. It's like you only have to take this step and then you're there. And that's it. You can just, if someone's interested in React and has not done any development before, you can just tell to them, okay, go to codesandbox.io/s/new. That's the hardest part. And start editing the white text. And you'll immediately give this feeling to the user that they've already worked on a React application. They can, at the bar, they can proudly tell, oh, I'm a software developer, because they've edited a React application by simply opening a web page and editing the white text. Now, a very wise man made this quote, and I changed the quote a bit for absolute beginners. The quote was, configuration should not stand in the way of getting started. This quote was by Dan. And I changed it a bit. Installing tooling should not stand in the way of getting started. And this is for people that have never edited a React application. Okay. So if you're telling the user to first learn build tools and such, you're doing it the wrong way. How can you explain to a user that they need to have a polyfill for the object REST spread operator if they don't even know that different browsers have different support, or that what an object even is, or let's go further, what a variable is. So first they should learn, okay, I need to build this, I'm going to try React or Vue, and then from then on they should slowly learn all these different build tools that are there. Okay, but we replace local tooling, so I can give a cool demo about how we integrate this all. And let's do that by making a mistake in our own app. Let's say I'm going to make this site. Okay, experienced developers already saw the mistake. Oh, but I didn't see it. Div? Yeah, okay. Site. Ooh. And save. Okay, now I'm going to import it and I'm going to use it. At least that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Beam. Oh, whoa, whoa, it doesn't work. Well, that's true. So normally you get this error, invariant violation, invalid tag, import React from React, and the error. This can be quite confusing because the error happens at render. You don't know where it came from. And you get an error that's not easy to explain. But if you already know all the context that there is a raw import from here, then you can already detect, oh, they are doing a raw import. So there's a simple solution. So we show a suggested solution. Rename, is this big enough? Okay. Rename site to site.js. And you click on it and boom, it works. Whoa. Now, this works for different things, like styled components. Okay, then we see, oh, you don't have the dependency styled components, let's install it. How far am I on time? I think I'm very, okay. The reason that we do not do this implicitly, because we do know the solution, right? The reason that we do not do it implicitly is because we still want the user to learn from their mistakes. So we show the original error, and we show a human readable one, and we show suggestions, but we let the user click the button to solve it. So that's the main reason. Okay, back to the presentation. After building this, I saw this great tool. It's from Mattia Mansati. It's MobX State Tree Playground. This is really cool. You can just work on an application with MobX State Tree. You get a preview, you can play with it, and then you can see this whole analyzation of your application, of what happened, all the patches that have been done, actions that have been dispatched. That's really cool. That makes it so much easier to understand how a library is working. So I started talking with him, and I started working on something called CodeSandbox API, which allows libraries to define error transformers and custom views for development. And I have a demo again. And here we go. Okay, this is it. Maybe this is too big? Okay. So we have this library called CodeSandbox API, and you should not use it. I'm only using it at this moment, because it will break your stuff every few weeks. But, oh no, I broke it. But it will be stable somewhere in the coming month. But this is an example of using that API. I am registering an error transformer here, and I'm getting all this error, modules, directories, all metadata. Oh, okay. And then I can say, if the message of the error includes cookie, I will return new metadata for the error, a new name, a new message, and suggestions. For example, do an alert, or send a notification. And this one is pretty special, because this means that you can access the CodeSandbox editor from within your library. So this is my ultimate demo, throw cookie error. And there you have it. You have a site error, custom error message. You have 2 suggested solutions. This one is pretty obvious. But you can also send notifications. And I can also add notification show hello with a warning. And throw cookie error. Now you get 2 notifications. So you're controlling the editor from within your library. And you can do a lot with it. CodeSandbox is using it for all its interaction from the preview to the editor. Yes, this way. And I've got a lot of questions, because CodeSandbox now has default templates. It has Create React app, it has Vue CLI, Preact CLI, Svelte, all these different toolboxes, as I've learned today. And I've got a lot of questions. Can I eject? And I would love to make you eject these templates, but we should still make it entry-level friendly. So I am working on building it that we can use UI to generate the configuration, see it as config generators. And with that, you can then edit the code also. But this not only is used for like your, not only used for in the CodeSandbox editor, but also general development tools should be more UI driven. We are a lot of UI devs here. We can build development tools that are UI driven. And a big one that's been pretty popular the past few days is this one, Webpack Electron Dashboard. It's a very good example of using visuals to show you new information. For example, module size, different chunk size. And we can build this for a lot of different dependencies. So I'm planning to make an Electron wrapper. That's what I want to do. And make it compatible with the CodeSandbox API, so you can also have these suggestions in your local environment. Okay, I have given a lot of time to the removing the learning curve, lowering the learning curve. Now we're going to encourage sharing and discovery, because this is only a logical choice. You are having a web editor, you should share it. And this is one of my favorite features of CodeSandbox, the search. I can do this for hours. You have a cool search powered by Algolia trademark. And you can search on it, and it will update. And this sounds pretty cool, but it's even cooler that, for example, if you want to have help with a library, then you can actually filter on them. For example, I want to show an example of React Router DOM. Now I get all the React Router DOM examples. And maybe I want it in combination with Redux Thunk. Oh, this is also cool. Redux is also using CodeSandbox for its examples. Redux Form as well, Glamorous, Downshift, React Table, a lot of libraries are already doing it. And I'm planning to give more support for them by giving separate pages. So, but now you can easily find examples. You also have profiles. Kent is a big user of CodeSandbox, I think the biggest. He has 100, oh, I have a zoom function. He has 185 sandboxes, that's impressive. Oh, and I can zoom, okay. And we have GitHub import and CLI export, and these are also very good. Because if you want to work with multiple people on one project, then it's pretty hard right now in CodeSandbox. But if you have, for example, GitHub import, you can just take the last part of your URL and paste it after this URL, and you will have a sandbox that's always synced with your GitHub repository. And I'm going to already give a secret. This presentation is even in a sandbox. So you've all been fooled. This is not localhost, this is CodeSandbox. And I imported it today from GitHub, so that's why I started with it. And we also have embedding, and this is an embed in CodeSandbox, CodeSandboxception, and you can start editing. And this is very important because this way people can, for example, if they are writing a Medium article, they can already show an example of an interactive example with their explanation, so people can play with it. Really important. If someone is going to learn something, they have to play with it before they are going to use it. View before buy. And as you can see, this is on Medium because of this white border. And this is the most popular sandbox right now. It's a simple React router version 4 tutorial. And I think yesterday it got the 100,000 views. It's incredible. And this was the initial goal, local editor experience. And with that, I don't mean it should feel like your local editor. Somewhere in the coming months, we should be able to build a full-blown application like CodeSandbox in CodeSandbox. And that's a good goal. But the future is bright. We have service workers, we have web workers, WebAssembly is coming up. WebAssembly will be a big thing for editors like CodeSandbox because we are fully client-side. So we need to run everything in JavaScript. But for example, your SAS compiler is not in JavaScript. It's in C, I believe. And we do have a ported version using mscriptum. But it would be very nice if we had WebAssembly versions of them. But to make it feel like a local editor, we have the MONACO editor in CodeSandbox. This is very cool. This is made by the team of VS Code. They took a subset of the VS Code editor and put it in the browser, and I'm still so thankful for that. They've done such a great job. You get all local editor things like, poof, you have these two properties here. Or you can also, maybe another example. Yeah, you can also find all references, peak definition. Oh, no definition found. Oh my. But you can, yeah, you have VS Code's features and also things like this. It's really cool. It's like you're editing locally. What's my time? Oh, I still have time. Do I? Okay. We also have ESLINT and PRETTIER. These were available for my local development, so I added them to CodeSandbox. It becomes quite fun to port local tools over to web browser. And so of course I can give a demo. I'm like the demo expert by now. For example, if I have let A is B this way, prettify, and it's all pretty. And you can also see A is a sign of value but never used. Now, we have the MONACO editor, so this means that for our TypeScript projects, we even get type info and we get type diagnostics. Really cool. Oh yeah, we support many different templates, by the way. Did I already tell you? We support React, React TypeScript, React, Vue, Svelte, and there's more to come. I also want to add a reason, and that will be one focus point. And the question always is do we have offline support? And we sort of do. Everything happens in the client except for bundling of the packages, the NPM dependencies, but we cache them. So you can take your Wi-Fi connection down, and I'm not so cool that I'm going to do that because I like doing demos, but not these kind of demos. But you can turn your Wi-Fi off, and you can reload your sandbox, and it still works. And maybe I want to do it. Okay, I'll do it at the end if I have time. Now, the question mark is because you cannot save modules yet if you use offline support. So what you have to do is you have to download it to get a version. By the way, if you download it, you get React types, create React app with it in this template, but you have to download it. I really want to have full offline support, so this will be a big focus point. So we've got this whole local editing experience, but we're missing one vital step of the whole cycle, and that's deploying. We don't have deploy. Well, I can't say that anymore. Okay, we didn't have deploy support, and I'm here at a site conference, of course. So I'm going to make a very cool announcement here. I'm super proud to announce that we have Site Now integration. Only it's behind a cheat code. It's already in production for a few days, so I fooled you again. I'm going to enable site deployment now. I'm going to demo it, actually. Look at all these errors. That's because I made mistakes in the sandbox. Okay, now you saw this beautiful icon appear. And you also didn't see that we now have a new tab in settings called integrations. You can sign in using the released site login with their OAuth API to integrate site into your CodeSandbox account. And then you can click on this. You get this beautiful window, and you can click on this beautiful button. And it will do this beautiful animation. Yeah, keep clapping, keep clapping. We still need to wait. Yeah, and we got a cool URL now. And this is the production version of your application. It works with all templates. Okay, please load. Yeah, you can see it's now installing all modules and building the project. We can wait on this. I can now give a Java lecture maybe to encourage you to start new projects. But I'm going to make another soon-to-be announcement, and that is in October. By October 15th, we will have Next support for CodeSandbox. So you can have Next inside CodeSandbox. And maybe Nux too. Okay, let me see. Do I have more slides? Oh yeah, CodeSandbox is open source, by the way. And we've had many contributors already. And if you want to be part of this movement of online editors, I encourage you to contribute. It's the biggest repository is on Ives/CodeSandbox client on GitHub. Maybe I have it open even. No, I don't. And I encourage you to at least check it out. It's code. And if you need more, if you want to find more information about CodeSandbox, you can follow me on Twitter under this username. I'm posting stuff about how CodeSandbox works internally or about our visions from time to time. So I encourage you to try that. Okay, we're not done yet. Now I'm going to check if it has been deployed. Look. This is a production version of your app. And now the last demo, if I have time. I do, okay. Turn Wi-Fi off. Okay, here we go, back in. Okay, now you get this message, you're not connected to the internet. Okay, this will be very scary. It works, it maybe works. We get it, that's normal, but it works. Okay, that was my talk. Thank you very much for listening.